Okay, so the UK has become the world's leading exporter of gin. Last year, exports of gin were worth £390 million, up from under £290 million in 2010. Not bad, but could they ever top the £4 billion that the whisky industry brings in? Well, the Minister for the Environment, Food and Rural Affairs, Liz Truss, is hoping they can. So, if you're considering a drop of the hard stuff this evening, which is it to be, whisky or gin? What about you, Tony? Do you have a preference?
Neither. I'm a vodka man. Although I don't know.
There you go.
Well, I'll take anything that's. I'm going to take anything that's going, man. To be perfectly honest.
Well, we've got Charlie Hewson-Sykes, who runs gin tastings and also blogs about gin, and Harry McAughtrie, is that pronounced right? McAughtrie, sorry. He's a whisky specialist
Don't worry, she's been drinking.
from the Whisky Shop in Manchester. Can I start off with you, Charlie? What do you think is behind this growth in popularity then in gin?
It's been growing for a while. When I started blogging kind of 2012, there was already 2 or 3 sort of new gins on the market. I went to my first tasting then and tried 3 or 4 different, new ones on the market. It's just grown and grown, and this year's been an absolute landslide. It's as if it's hit the more general public. So it's always been in the on-trade. There's always been kind of people knowing about new gins coming in and trying new things with cocktails and educating people in styles of gin, because there's an awful lot out there. And it's just hit the media and it's exploded this year.
Do you have a favourite gin?
I have a lot of favourite gins. There are around 450 in the world, and I'm up to about 207, I think.
So you're working your way through them?
Yeah, pretty much.
Tough job. Harry, with whiskey's thought of more Scottish, isn't it? And gin is more English. Do you think that's fair?
Yeah, that kind of has that stigma attached to it. But recently, since 2007, Japanese whiskey has really kind of bounced onto the market. Jim Murray, who writes a whiskey Bible, last year said that his favourite whiskey was a Japanese whiskey. And from there, it's just kind of grown in popularity. But the Americans are making a big shout in terms of your big brands like Jack Daniels and Woodford Reserve. But all your kind of micro distilleries are popping up, and they're becoming a lot more popular as well. So there is a big demand for new products in terms of whiskey out there.
Okay, so here's potentially a stupid question. What is the difference between whiskey and gin? Does it lie in the way they age?
Yes, I mean, gin is unaged, whereas whiskey is. By law, it has to be a minimum of 3 years old.
There are aged gins out there. There are quite a few that are aged in whiskey barrels, so they take on flavours of whiskey, and they're tailored. In particular, there's a distillery in America that does it, and there's a couple over here who take things like Macallan casks and so some of the stronger whiskey flavours and merge the two together, so you get a combination.
With gin, isn't it just an image issue, because a marketing issue? Because the old label Mother's ruining all that kind of thing, and it did get that stigma of being a depressant, didn't it? When you drink gin, but suddenly now it's cool. There are all these different makes, and it's quite swish to drink gin, isn't it? It
is, and there was some research that was done to suggest that it's actually the whole idea that it makes you depressed and what have you psychosomatic. So there are people who react to different alcohols in different ways, but it will be on past experiences, not actually because the alcohol as
but it's more a perception, really. That was a universal image of gin, wasn't it, for many years? And suddenly now it's like the Cool Britannia moment for gin. It's become
very much so.
Desirable.
There was a period of time where after the Mother's Ruin incidents and when the gin laws were brought in, that it actually became very posh to drink gin. It was drunk in officers' messes in India during the Victorian period. It then went through still kind of a higher class drink in cocktails and what have you, and then it moved into, we had the 80s when we had Gordon's Gin and Joan Collins and all those kinds of adverts, making it sort of almost more of a gentleman's drink than a lady's drink. And now with the increase of women drinking more generally and exploring, or feeling like they can explore, they're drinking more gin and they're drinking more whiskey.
Well, Harry, if I can just ask you about the image problem with whiskey, many people might look at it as a bit of an old man's drink, if I can say that.
Yeah. That is a stigma that is attached to whiskey, but it's one that's being fought every day. I mean, the average age of my colleagues is 22 years old. Manchester, in general, is a young, upcoming city that drinks a hell of a lot of whiskey. You've got whiskey bars and pubs up and down Deansgate and around that area that are constantly increasing their amount of whiskies that they have behind the back bar. So the kind of popularity with younger people is it's the new cool thing to drink. A lot of people have always referred back to James Bond. In the books, he always drank Talisker. And in Skyfall, he drank a 50-year-old Macallan. So whiskey has always been kind of a cool thing to do. But you've also got that kind of stigma that it is what your granddad drinks.
Yeah.
And it's something that's always been fought. And we're kind of at the forefront of it being so young. So
You guys haven't brought anything in for us, have you?
I have some gin in my handbag. I usually
No, it's you can't drink on drive.
nice.
Clever. Thank you.
Yes, we're breaking the law. 1.6 billion gin and tonics are sold annually.
Wow.
Charlie, it sounds like you've had half of them. How long before you finished all the gins? Then you've got half.
Well, at least I've been doing that since about 2012, so about 3 years. So maybe another couple.
Oh, good luck.
Thank you.
Hope to step over you somewhere soon. Cheers, guys. Thanks for coming in.
wonderful.
Thank
Thanks
you.
very much indeed.